Forget everything you know about traditional logging. There are no ropes, no harnesses, no climber inching up a 100-foot pine with a chainsaw strapped to his hip. What you're about to see is something different. A machine that goes where no human should, does what no crew can, and does it faster than anyone thought possible. This is industrial forestry in the 21st century, and it starts 75 feet in the air. For most of human history, working at the top of a large tree meant one thing: a person had to get up there. Tree surgery, utility line clearance, timber boundary work, all of it depended on skilled climbers, long hours, and an enormous amount of physical risk. Falls from height remain one of the leading causes of death in arboriculture and forestry work worldwide. And even when climbers made it up safely, the pace was brutally slow. One tree, one crew, one day at a time. The problem wasn't skill. The problem was scale. Modern power infrastructure doesn't run through a handful of trees. It runs through thousands of miles of corridor, cutting across forests, wetlands, and terrain that no climbing crew can cover fast enough to keep pace with growth cycles. A mature tree can put on several feet of new growth in a single season. Utility companies managing high-voltage transmission lines can't afford to wait. Something had to change. Enter the Jarraff All-Terrain Tree Trimmer. From the outside, it looks almost impossibly large, a machine built like a tank, riding on 4 massive independently driven wheels, each one capable of handling the kind of uneven, soft, or debris-covered terrain that would stop a conventional vehicle cold. The chassis alone weighs tens of thousands of pounds, but the 4-wheel drive system distributes that weight across a footprint wide enough to move through sensitive ground without the deep rutting that tracked machines leave behind. But the chassis isn't what makes the Jarraff extraordinary. It's what sits on top of it. The telescopic boom extends to 75 feet, roughly the height of a 7-story building. It doesn't just reach up in a straight line. It articulates, pivots, and rotates with a range of motion that lets the operator position the cutting head at almost any angle, reaching over obstacles, around trunk forks, and into the dense interior of a canopy that a straight boom could never access. The operator sits in an enclosed, air-conditioned cab and controls all of it. Boom extension, rotation, articulation, and cutting speed. From a set of joysticks, watching the work through cameras in direct line of sight, never leaving the ground. At the end of that boom is the reason the machine exists. A high-speed rotary saw capable of cutting through limbs and stems that would take a manual crew hours to bring down. It doesn't hack or tear. It cuts cleanly at high RPM, leaving a precise wound on the remaining tree, rather than the ragged, bark-splitting damage that chainsaw work at height often produces. In utility corridor work, that precision matters enormously. A clean cut heals faster, reducing the interval before regrowth threatens the line again. And then there's the detail that makes the Jarraff unlike almost any other piece of heavy machinery in the forestry world. The hydraulic system is fully insulated. Working near high-voltage power lines is not like working near any other industrial hazard. A standard hydraulic system on a piece of heavy equipment uses conductive fluid and metal fittings. Put that near a live 138 kilovolt transmission line, and the result isn't a near miss. It's a fatality. The Jarraff's insulated hydraulic system is engineered specifically to allow the machine to work within the established safety clearances of energized lines. The boom, the fluid, the fittings, all of it rated and tested to prevent conductivity at voltages that would arc through conventional equipment instantly. This single feature is what makes the Jarraff not just a faster way to trim trees near power lines. It's the only machine that can do it safely at scale without de-energizing the line first. De-energizing a high-voltage transmission corridor means cutting power to everything it feeds. For a utility company managing thousands of miles of line, that's not an option. They can exercise every time a stand of trees needs clearance work. The numbers tell the rest of the story. A conventional climbing crew working a power line corridor, 2 to 4 skilled arborists, a bucket truck for accessible sections, hand tools and chainsaws, might clear a 1/4 mile of corridor in a full working day under favorable conditions. The Jarraff, operated by a single person, can cover multiples of that in the same time, on terrain the bucket truck can't access at all. The machines don't get tired. They don't need rest breaks. They don't require the weeks of training that safe canopy climbing demands. And they don't fall. This isn't a replacement for human expertise. Every Jarraff still needs a trained operator, and the judgment required to work around energized infrastructure is not trivial. But it is a replacement for the kind of dangerous, slow, physically punishing work that defined utility forestry for the better part of a century. Today, Jarraff units operate across utility corridors in North America, managing the right-of-way that keeps the grid running. They work alongside road authorities clearing sight lines on highway corridors, alongside timber companies managing boundaries where commercial forest meets protected land, and alongside municipalities clearing storm-risk trees from infrastructure before the next weather event hits. The canopy hasn't changed. The trees are still tall, still dense, still growing back faster than any crew can keep pace with on foot. What's changed is the machine standing underneath them. 4 wheels on the ground, 75 feet of reach into the sky, and a rotary saw turning at a speed that makes the work look almost surgical from the ground. Manual climbing didn't fail because climbers weren't skilled enough. It failed because the scale of modern industrial forestry, the miles of corridor, the density of the growth, the voltage of the lines running through it, outgrew what any human crew could realistically manage. The Jarraff didn't replace the arborist. It replaced the impossible. Next episode, we go inside the machine that takes timber from the canopy to the mill, and why the feller buncher changed logging forever. If you work in utility forestry or arboriculture, drop your experience in the comments. How has mechanization changed your industry? And subscribe to follow the full series.